Hello everyone, my name is Andrew Hansen and I'm really looking forward to walking you through what Lion of Data is all about. So to start, I should probably explain the name. So the name Lion of Data is actually a play on the name that Jesus has in the Bible, Lion of Judah. So just as Jesus is the Lion of Judah or the King of Judah, so is he also the Lion of Data or the King of Data. So that's what the name means. Now, the more important aspect is, what is this all about? What is Lion of Data all about? So Lion of Data is really all about taking modern tools that we have, such as data science and other technology tools and data that we have at our disposal, to help the church optimize decisions in a way it has not been able to do in the past. And so what Lion of Data is going to first focus on is missions dollars spent around the world and how to optimize that. So that's what this page here is going to be dedicated to, in the videos down below, and the applications that have been developed down below are all about. So before we get into that, I will just quickly mention, if you would like to get a little bit more of my corporate background plus my educational background, feel free to click on the About tab on the top of the page. Also, if you do want to just get a little bit more of a unique perspective on my take on theology and using data science to look at biblical theology and to see it in a different way, I would encourage you to check out the tab that says DS plus theology, which is data science plus theology. And so with that, now let's get into kind of really the heart of the matter, what this page is all about and what Lion of Data is starting to focus on. So what is the challenge that we want to really grapple with for this website? So I'll give you a simple example. Think about when you go into a church here in the modern day, where it's a new building where it has maybe 1,000 seats in it, right? So it's a brand new building, it has 1,000 seats. And then maybe 5 or 7 years go by and they're changing the color of the walls or the carpet, and for whatever reason they need to get new chairs in the auditorium. So they have 1,000 chairs, they need to get new chairs, and say every chair is about $50. So that's about $50,000 that they're investing in chairs in their relatively new building. So the idea here would be, okay, that $50,000 that we probably didn't need to spend because the chairs were probably fine. If we were to take that $50,000 and apply it to a different country, that $50,000 could support 5 large churches and 5 full-time pastors, right? And so the impact that $50,000 would have that we spent on chairs could be spent in a much better way to really create an impact for the kingdom of God globally. And so that's really the idea here, and that's a simple example. And part of the challenge why the church has not, with the capital C church, has not been able to achieve this is the lack of data that is out there and the lack of tools that exist to be able to bring all this data to be able to provide a view that is going to be helpful to inform better decision making. So with that kind of as a context, what I want to do next, I want to kind of walk through some content that I've created. And I'm going to start with, we have some good news, we have some bad news, but then I want to start with the good news. So with that, let me just kind of quickly flip over here. So what you'll see, the good news. The good news is every year globally, the church with a capital C is spending $45 billion on missions. That is a lot of money, and that is good news. But now, what is the bad news? The bad news is over 5 billion people are still not Christian, and also billions of that 45 billion that we just talked about are not being spent in an optimal way. So, and as mentioned before, a large reason for this is we tend to get myopic and we think very locally, because we don't really have the data to be able to kind of expand out and look at a macro global view and how we could actually spend our dollars differently. So that's been part of the challenge here. So the good news is that we actually have this data that exists, and we have tools that exist to help us make these decisions better. And that's what this web page here is going to be dedicated to show us of how we can use it. So how we can use the data and the tools. So what I'm going to show you next is what you'll see below. There's really 3 data applications that have been created from Lion of Data to help the church do this, to help us make better decisions on a macro level. This first part will be, that I'm going to walk you through in the next video, is the interactive visualization. So this has 238 countries / economies in the world put in an interactive visualization on a graph that we're going to walk through, which is a very powerful thing. Additionally, then after that, we'll walk through, it's an interactive data table, which has all of the data that was used to create that visualization and more, that will help us even enrich our perspective on this even more. And then the last one will be an interactive calculator. So once we go through these first two data applications, we're going to start to be able to understand, wow, how can I, or my church, or my denomination, or a nonprofit, an organization that I'm interested in, that I'm a part of, how can we make better decisions with this data? And that's what that interactive calculator is all about. And so that's really what this webpage is going to go through. And then the last thing you'll see on the right-hand side is the application. So, well, who could apply this? It really is at the denominational level, which is a very large level, all the way down to an individual level, and anywhere in between. So that is really who can benefit from this. And the last thing I'll mention is the different data sources that I've used to be able to create this. There's 7 data sources. I'll give you the quick overview. One data source is the International Monetary Fund, or the IMF. The other one is the United Nations. Another one is the World Bank. Another one is the Central Intelligence Agency Factbook. Another one is Joshua Project, and Open Doors USA, and then Lion of Data. I've taken the data, integrated the data, stitched it together, sliced it, and then built these data applications on top of it so that we can more easily visualize what the data is telling us. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I appreciate you taking the time to watch it, and I'm looking forward to having you go through the next videos down below so we can really get into the richness of this data. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next videos.